All right. Anyway, there's this wonderful young, terribly cute girl on the Facebook, and she wrote, Liam, why don't you talk about viral load testing? Well, I'll talk about that. I'll do a little video upcoming on the viral load testing. Viral load testing is what they use to convince you to stay in the AIDS game once they give you the fake antibody test. Now, this just happened to a friend of mine, a new friend of mine. I swear we're going to have her on the show. She went for a test. She's Southern, so let's say there's a certain amount of Christian fear and guilt about sex put into the meme and in the mind. And she goes for this test because she's in a relationship and she wants to feel clean and tidy. And she has a reactive ELISA test. And the doctor says, well, we think you might be HIV positive. Then she has a reactive Western blot test. It's reactive on 2 bands, 2 proteins. Oh, my God, she's losing her mind. And I say to listen, I'm glad to know you, and you now have more reading to do than you ever thought you could do, and you have to do it really quickly. And don't make any sudden moves. Just start to read about these tests. And she read hundreds of pages, in days, which is what you do when you're under stress and you're trying to figure out how to save your own life. And she began to question the doctor. And she began to question the thing and wanted her records and this sort of thing. Well, with a week into it, after asking all these, oh, by the way, a white woman, well-educated, middle class, not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but well-educated and very bright. A week into asking questions, a week into this, being a white woman with essentially a confirmed HIV test diagnosis, the doctor called and said, this just isn't making sense. I think you must be a false positive. At which point I didn't fall out of my chair, but I was amazed. This is how it works. You're not in the risk group, you're a false positive. And look, it wasn't a joke for her. I mean, it was terrifying. But she said, I'm incredulous. She just couldn't believe it. They had screwed with her, and then they call her and say, well, you're a false positive. Okay. But in the meantime, she had gone and done this so-called viral load testing. Well, viral load is otherwise known as PCR, and it's a method of putting in these little probes and primers to start copying sub-fragments of genetic material. What genetic material? Any genetic material. Any genetic material that's left over. You can't see it. You can't hold it in your hand. You get this stuff, you get the reagents from the chemical company, Roche or whomever is making it, and you put it in the easy bake oven in the lab, and that's kind of what it looks like. It's just a piece of kit. It's a piece of equipment. And you spin the little liquid in the centrifuge, and you take off the liquid part that you're supposed to take off, and you pour a little in with the liquid that you got from the chemical company, and you put that through a number of cycles, and you say, oh, well, okay, and then the machine tells you what number you have. Well, you're not, is that science? I guess. I consider it less scientific than Etch-a-Sketch or than, you're not doing anything, you're not counting anything. The machine's telling you. What does the machine tell you? What are the reagents? What is it reacting with? Nobody knows. Nobody has to. Viral load comes up positive. Get this? It comes up, there's no positive or negative. You either have a low number or a high number. But get this. If you go for a viral load test in the morning, you might have a very different viral load than you do in the afternoon. Or if you go at the same time but take 2 different tests, you'll have very different numbers because these tests are total bullshit. These don't test for any specific thing. And if you want to go through the literature on it, you can. Here's a quick way to do it. You go, and there's a great correspondence between the eminent Dr. Valinda Turner of Australia and Dr. Robin Weiss of England. There's a great guy. There's still a lot of mysteries as to exactly how HIV causes AIDS, but if you don't believe it, you're an AIDS denialist and you ought to be raped by a gorilla. Yeah, that's a direct quote. I believe, except for maybe some of it, which I added the gorilla part. Who knows? But I'm quoting Dr. Robin Weiss, who runs some of the AIDS program in big hospital in London, and he's interviewed in the movie House of Numbers, and he of course, believes in the whole thing. He says, Western blots aren't necessary. I believe they're not necessary, he says. I don't know why you're so attached to using them in America. But, of course, that's what we use in America to convince ourselves that we're really HIV positive. Not so in perfidious Albion in great merry old England. They don't have to do that. It's a redundancy to them. They just use 2 different ELISA tests, or maybe they use ELISA and viral load. So let's look at viral load. Val Turner, the eminent Australian doctor, has a long correspondence, more or less against Robin Weiss's will, which makes it even more fun to read. Email correspondence between Drs. Val Turner and Drs. Robin Weiss, published in '99, maybe in Continuum magazine. And Turner, it's this pure Socratic dialogue. He just keeps pointing out every failing and every fault, and Turner keeps coming back and defending the official story in this long, wonderful article. I don't know who reads this kind of stuff, but it's just great to read. It's great to read a dialogue, a correspondence. It's where people reveal what they're really thinking. They're not writing for the public anymore. They're writing to either trounce each other or show each other up, or to demonstrate the failing of each other's thinking. And it's everything looks better in contrast. Everything does better with competition. So what do we have here? You have a list, and the list is taken from a study which is real, and I looked up, and you have so-called HIV being measured with 3 different tests. So you have something from patient DJ258, right? And using one kind of PCR, you have less than 400. Less than 400 what? Supposedly the number of particles in the blood. Using a different test, ready? You have 111,500. Same sample. Are we done yet? Here, let's do another. 3B, patient 3B. 17,000 on branching DNA, and 54,000 on another kind of PCR. So you either have 17,000 particles, 54,000, or 360,000 on another kind of PCR. So either 400 or 111,000, either 400 or 79,000, either 225,000 or 38,000, or 4,700 or 5,200. These are, here's a great one. Here's patient VI557. On one kind of PCR, you have 125,000 viral particles. Oh my God! In another, you have it's the same sample, and in another test, different PCR test, you have 587,000. Oh my God! And on another one, you have 950,000. Well, which is it? Here's another, less than 400 or 295,000 particles. Well, I'll take the less than 400 because at that point that's clinically insignificant and they let you out. And my friend was let out. Well, we don't believe you're really positive. So that's PCR. That's how that works. It's crap. It's total crap. The New York Times published an article in 2007, called Faith in Quick Test Leads to Epidemic that wasn't. What was the quick test that they had faith in? PCR. They used PCR, and by using PCR, you can get a goat to seem like it's a hamster. You can get a banana to seem like it's a walrus, and so on and so forth. These things are crap. And if you want to look through the actual medical literature on how it works, well, let's do it. Viral loads. Here we go. What journal is this from? You don't care. What are you doing over there? My God. Put some clothes on. Case 1, a previously healthy 12-year-old boy whose HIV-infected mother is cared for at one of our institutions. Oh, how wonderful for her. Presented for evaluation of a positive plasma viral load. He had positive viral load. What about, let's see. Although the patient reported no risk for HIV infection, he underwent plasma viral load testing after his primary care physician noticed a skiing lesion that was interpreted as herpes zoster. So they gave him a viral load test, and he was positive. The patient subsequently had a negative result on an HIV antibody test, and a normal T cell count. Well, and then he had a negative plasma viral load. Case 2, a previously healthy pregnant 40-year-old woman presented for an HIV test. The patient tested negative on an antibody oral test, but continued to be concerned about her HIV status. She underwent a viral load test and had a positive value of 1,500 copies. The patient, she was told that she was probably infected with HIV. During the next 3 months, she had a negative HIV antibody test, normal T cell counts, and 3 plasma viral load tests that showed an undetectable viral load. She was positive, then negative, then positive, then negative. Case 3, a 20-year-old healthy woman had a positive ELISA antibody test and an indeterminate Western blot test. She had a positive ELISA and another indeterminate Western blot test. Then she had negative ELISA and Western blot, but she had a positive plasma viral load test. Wow, on a Roche PCR viral load test. That's what we use. That's the faith in the quick test that leads to the epidemic that was. She was subsequently counseled that she was probably infected with HIV. Nearly 6 months after her initial indeterminate HIV test results, she was tested by a third laboratory and was negative for HIV antibodies on both ELISA and Western blot. She had a normal T cell count, had a plasma viral load that was undetectable. Well, I guess she got better. And it goes on and on. The literature goes on and on. Viral load is what's used to tell people that they're infected with bird flu, swine flu, West Nile virus, all this other kind of stuff is now at the mercy of viral load testing. And like I said, you can either have a 400 or a 295,000. It depends on the test they're using and the time of day that they are using it. So don't buy it.